and welcome to the PunchCast episode 8, the part 1 of the E3 Spectacular. We are in a war room in downtown LA right now, staying at one of the finest hotels in the area. As always, I'm your host Evan, and with me for part 1 is Kevin.
Bonjour. I'm fancy, living in the fancy French hotel in LA.
Yeah,
it's
great. We got back from the Ubisoft press conference moments ago with all the French people. They had escargot and croissants. And enjoying a fine croissant right now is Sam.
Konnichiwa. This is a great penthouse, guys. I can't believe that they have this pool and the water beds and oh my god.
Water beds? What is this, the 80s? The E3 people, they put us up in a beautiful hotel, no charge.
Yeah, Mr. E3 actually did.
Mr. E3 himself.
Yeah.
And enjoying the jacuzzi is John.
Shumai, did anyone else see Kojima down in the swimming pool?
Yeah, I had a beer with him. He really was interested in... I don't know, couldn't understand him.
I wasn't sure who he was, but he came up to me and said he admired my work a lot and thanked me for all the great stuff I've been doing, so it was a kind of nice experience.
It's life. People, they're there. Lots of jorts, swag, VR headsets this year too. A lot of those sweaty guys putting those on.
Yeah, I met Mario.
Yeah, he was there. He's actually 8 feet tall. It was insane. So
okay, so should we tell them we're not actually at E3?
They actually do have dumb mascots like that walking around the E3 floor. Like
yeah.
Last year they had Kratos, they had a Sackboy, they had the Tearaway people.
Yeah, PC Gamer had like a guy in Space Marine gear on their stage.
Awesome.
Anyways, so we are most definitely at E3, Sam. Shut up. But let's jump right in right now. This part 1 is gonna cover kind of the first half of the show. We're gonna barely glance over EA because it was mostly garbage. We'll be doing Bethesda and Microsoft for this first portion. So we're gonna jump right in right now. We're gonna start off with probably EA's best game that they showed, or at least most interesting to me that we hadn't seen a ton of already. Titanfall 2 debuted the single player trailer leaks first.
Yeah.
Like a day early, of course, or that day or some shit. Then they showed a really cool multiplayer trailer, and then they showed the single player again, noting that it had already leaked. The multiplayer trailer I thought was pretty rad. Like, I think they took that feedback to heart, which was that the game, while felt super fun and was definitely one of the better shooters just playing-wise, it didn't have a lot of content to back up that stuff. And so they're like, okay, this time we need to make it more diverse, we need to give more options. I think they're doing that, which makes me feel good about this game. But what do you guys think?
I'm super excited to play it, especially because, hey, last time it came out on Xbox only. Well, okay, so it also came out on PC, but I didn't have a PC then, so I didn't get to play it pretty much at all while that game was still being played. So I'm really excited to, even if this game somehow, like, they screw it up and there isn't a community after, like, a few months, I'll be there at launch, so it won't matter too much. I'll get my fun with it. Because I really, really, really want to play a game where I'm controlling a giant robot and doing parkour and killing people.
Yeah, because that was one game I actually played a ton of when it came out on Xbox, and actually had a couple, I think it was like 3 or 4 buddies that played a lot for like that first, maybe month or so while it was popular, but then obviously it took them quite some time to do updates and new maps and all that stuff, so obviously we all know it dropped off pretty darn fast, but I really did enjoy my time with it when it first came out, and I'm excited. Hopefully they learned from those mistakes. Hopefully they have a better kind of content release schedule planned, because it was a heck of a lot of fun, and it looks like they took in, like you said, Evan, like a lot of that feedback, and hopefully it will be an even better game, and I won't have to play it on Xbox this time, which is also,
yeah,
extra good.
Yeah, it was a hell of a new IP that it needed some work. Like, and this is, what everyone's been talking about with Watch Dogs 2, which is like the Assassin's Creed 2 plot, where the first one is like, that was cool, and then the second one is where they really hit the stride. And so I hope to see that comes to fruition. And they definitely showed a lot of really interesting stuff with kind of the new pilot abilities and some new kind of traversal ways, like the weird grappling hook zip line was pretty rad. They ended on that sweet shot. And they're kind of trying to make Titans at least a little more personable and human, and they feel kind of unique, like, because in the first one they would just throw away like cool machines, like you just fucking jump in, it blows up, you're like cool, and then you run away. And in this one they're like, look, I think there was 3 in the original, and then they said they're adding 6 more, which sounds crazy, so 9 total hopefully they're unique enough that you actually see more than just one type played. They have more like hand-to-hand stuff with the robots, and they got the swords, which everyone was super stoked on, and more kind of movement stuff, like interesting takedowns and everything. John, what do you think?
For me, there were two big takeaways. One was the fact that the Titans, at least in the campaign mode, look as if they're going to be sentient. I think that's a really cool idea because in first-person shooters, normally it's either you play as the nameless protagonist, or if you're in first person, you do speak in a first-person shooter, it's normally like the most annoying character in the world and you wish you'd gone back to silent protagonist. So I think it's a really nice approach of having a character in the campaign that you can relate to and develop an attachment to while still being the silent protagonist. So that was my first takeaway. And then the other takeaway was, it looks like we're going to be fighting wildlife. So when in the original Titanfall you went to all these exotic planets and there would be wildlife in the background, but you couldn't really interact with it, so it was just sort of a backdrop. And it's nice to see that we're going to be interacting with that wildlife now, and hopefully they have some really imaginative creatures that we're going to fight in the single player campaign, and hopefully they feed that into multiplayer as well.
Yeah, couldn't you kill some of those flying birds in that one level?
Yeah, you could shoot them down.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Didn't they pick some people up occasionally too? I can't remember.
I think they picked up the extra dudes.
Yeah, and there was some. I think there were some DLC maps that also had creatures on them that you could interact with, like different creatures. So I don't know. They always seem to be messing with trying to throw like alien wildlife into the mix there a little bit. They seem to have some ideas there that they never really quite fleshed out.
I was gonna say, like, I assume like how they did it with like the AI enemies and like your team. Hopefully they do that sort of thing with the AI wildlife, because that is one of the parts that I loved about the first one, like whether you were killing AI with the fucking overpowered autolock pistol and killing like 12 dudes at once, or killing people in your Titan, or killing people obviously just normally. Everything was like funneling towards you getting your Titan. It had like this awesome cycle of killing, Titan, killing, exploding, rinse and repeat. So hopefully they use that kind of like AI wildlife and creatures towards the same goal, because it could work really well, because I really enjoyed what they did before.
I'm a little skeptical overall of the single player that they showed off. There was a lot of people going, hey, we want this, we need this, but I don't know. Like, I personally don't get into, like, linear single player shooter campaigns. Like, Doom was a game that came out recently and was an exception to that, but that's because Doom has, like, the level design and the mechanics to make that feel good, whereas, like, I haven't enjoyed a Call of Duty campaign in a long time, and everything they showed in the trailer kind of looks like they're going for that, but without the fun star power of, like, a Kevin Spacey or someone to kind of, like, keep the plot at least kind of interesting. So, I don't know, like, obviously we don't know a lot about what the story of this thing's going to be, but just the gameplay they showed off, I was like, this looks like a bunch of canned action sequences in a linear level. So, alright, I guess? Like, I don't know. It's not... Yeah. Definitely not going to be the reason I play that game.
Like John said, hopefully, like, your robot being, like, more sentient, not just being a shell for you. Maybe hopefully that funnels in better into the narrative, and it seems like they're going to focus on that a little bit more, because it's just like, it's like you have an Optimus Prime that you're just buddies with, so hopefully that turns out to be cool, but yeah. I guess we'll see.
But I don't know, like, to me it's more of it's just a gameplay thing. It's not even a plot thing, even if the plot's great. If they're just doing a single, or like a Call of Duty campaign, but with mechs, like, I don't really need that in my life.
I want to see what Respawn can do with the campaign, though. I mean, EA, not that I trust EA's judgment, but EA clearly has faith in the studio because they've given them a Star Wars game to go work on. So I think that there's definitely something from Respawn in terms of what they can do with single-player content that we haven't seen yet, and I'm just really excited to see it. Because obviously, I don't know if it was necessarily a problem with EA that they couldn't get a campaign out, but obviously they could take feedback from the audience and say, look, we need to do a campaign because this is people want. So I feel like going into Titanfall 2, they had free roam to really go wild with that campaign. And if that's true, I want to see what they can really do and see if they can do something amazing.
Yeah, I mean, they put it in because, obviously people are asking for it. And for whatever reason, people will play the campaign of Call of Duty and then that's it. They move on and that game lives and dies on multiplayer. But when you take away the campaign, people fucking freak out like it's the end of the world for whatever reason. Yeah. Like, I don't think Titanfall 2 needs a campaign.
Yeah, it doesn't. Like, the really funny thing, I think it's more than anything, like, the reason they're adding it is just a reaction to the general idea in the gaming community that multiplayer-only games shouldn't be $60. Like, you've just seen, like, with Overwatch, there's just a million people bitching about that. It's like, I don't want to pay this amount of money for a multiplayer-only game, and it's like, Yeah, but like you aren't even like you look at the stats or whatever. I think it's less than half of people that buy Call of Duty play those campaigns. Like at a certain point, taking that campaign away, it probably wouldn't affect that many people. But you can like guarantee that regardless, a lot of people would be mad about that, even though they were never going to play it. It's just like this weird stigma attached to games without campaigns that you kind of need one somehow to be legitimate in the eyes of a lot of gamers, despite the fact that they're never going to play.
Yeah, it's just like having it there like gives people comfort for whatever reason. And
Yeah.
so, there's ways to make it cool. I'm not against them putting it in there, but I don't expect a lot, so I'm not going to be upset if it doesn't come to like be the best shooter campaign of all time like some people might be expecting. It looked interesting enough that I will play it and give it a shot, but it won't be, that game won't live and die on the campaign for me. So, we'll see what happens there. Moving on. That's kind of all the cool new stuff. We saw a tiny bit of Mass Effect. They gave us a hint or like, a tiny bit of cookie crumb information on what the plot is of, just the human people. It looked like there's kind of an arc of sorts trying to find a new planet to live on. So it is that one Matthew McConaughey space movie. Hopefully it has lots of books in this one because that would be cool.
It was called Interstellar.
That's what it was. I was going to say I liked Interstellar. It was okay. But for whatever reason, my brain was also picking up like other space movies like Event Horizon and shit, so I couldn't think of the name. But, still not a lot to go on with that game. EA this year had a stupid problem of showing too much fucking background. Like, look, it's the devs, drawn. Cool.
That's because they don't actually have that many games to show off. They're just trying to fill time.
Yeah, so which is why we're going to just skip over Madden, FIFA. They showed Faye, something. Couldn't understand the guy at all.
I think it's Faye.
Faye, yeah. It looked kind of like a 3D Ori of the Blood Forest, kind of platformy, something or other about nature. Cool, whatever. Like, I don't, $15, sure, I'll give it a shot, maybe.
Yeah, the last game they put out, the last game EA put out that was like that, great hit. Everyone loved Yarny, right?
I thought Unravel was boring AF.
Yeah, I think most of us actually didn't like Unravel, which was...
It was like, cool, this looks so cool, and then it comes out and it was like, this is a lot less cool than I thought it was going to be.
EA somehow manages to fuck up even like the games that look like they'll be like neat indie games, so don't trust them, I think is the lesson at the end of the day.
Besides that, they showed a bunch of Star Wars crap, and by a bunch, I mean nothing.
And by crap, I mean Star Wars.
Because Visceral, at least for me, has a history of making really fun games. Like, they've done Dead Space, which is, one of my favorite series of all time. And while Dead Space 3 wasn't scary, it was a fun game to play. And, taking what everyone wanted at a 1313, which is that, obviously that dead Star Wars game. They have a lot of wiggle room to make an interesting game. I just don't know if they will because I'm not a Star Wars fan. I don't give a shit about Battlefront or anything, and they showed that. And it's like, look, soon we're going to be bringing in the new movie stuff, and Battlefront 2 is going to come out next year. And I was like, fuck off. Like, they're making, obviously Star Wars is a huge, arguably one of the biggest names and franchises in just anything all across the world. It's crazy. So they have 3 games that are being made right now, which is, Battlefront 2, whatever Visceral is doing, and then Respawn's game, which will be interesting. They said it was a third-person action game that Respawn's making.
Yeah, because they showed off that footage of like those 2 dudes fighting, and it was very like combat focused. So presumably something like Force Unleashed, something similar.
Don't get me going. That would be awesome.
Well, I mean, like the footage that showed off was like those 2 guys mocapping, and it was very, very action heavy.
If they reboot that franchise, I'll be real stoked. Other than that, they showed Battlefield 1 again with the trailer that we'd mostly seen. I feel like there was 4 seconds of new shots in that trailer. But overall, just, the same stuff we've seen for the past, month or so. And they did have the 1 hour, a bunch of nerds playing Battlefield 1. I did not watch it, so that might have been cool.
You know what? Biggest news to come out of that, Snoop Dogg has betrayed Activision. Snoop Dogg was on, they're playing Battlefield 1. If you recall, Snoop Dogg also, big Call of Duty fan, or so he used to say, did a voice pack for Ghosts. And now he's playing with the competition.
He realized Ghost was a bad game.
DOGG is playing both sides of the video game industry right now, and it's fascinating.
Yeah, I'm still looking forward to Battlefield 1 overall. Like, I did have to cancel my collector's edition because The Last Guardian came up and they're a week away. I don't want to spend $300 in 2 weeks. But it looks fun from what I've seen, especially because people are worried about combat being, slow or boring because World War I was kind of that way. But they seem to be, kind of twisting it in an interesting way to make it more fun. Obviously, it's needed. You can't just have two teams in a 45-minute match of, popping shots off at each other across trenches. It's just not going to work.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. Like, the kind of interesting, the whole thing that makes, like, them going to World War I interesting was, hey, maybe, like, you kind of can't make this exactly, like, this can't be a reskin because it's World War I, and then, like, them doing their damnedest to kind of just make it a reskin is a bummer in some ways.
I'm not against it. It's still going to be starkly different than most shooters you see with Call of Duty and Titanfall being future games.
Yeah, I mean aesthetically and like thematically, yeah. The gameplay I watched, like from that hour-long like stream or whatever it was, I was like,
looks like Battlefield.
This looks a lot like Battlefield. I like Battlefield a lot, but it seems like they could definitely have taken the whole hey, we're on World War I thing now a lot further than they did, probably because they're scared of alienating people that just want to play the same game over and over again, because that's more or less what 3 and 4 both was just the same game over and over.
Which is fine, because Battlefield 3 was amazing.
It was okay. I disagree, because I think 3 had bad vanilla maps. Like, the maps in Battlefield 3, without the DLC, were just not good, with a couple exceptions. And then 4, at least the base game was stronger.
Yeah, but then they ported it over to new consoles, and that port was really bad.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. The bugs Battlefield 4 had were shitty. But just looking at which game is better, I would say 4 is a more of a direction I'd like to see them going in. And then obviously Hardline was kind of a weird sidestep.
They didn't want to go all in with another hard right with the Battlefield franchise because, it didn't pan out super well for Hardline. Like, I played that game, and I was like, alright, and then I never played it again. So them doing another hard ride of like, look, it's different than Battlefield, it might not work out. So, doing it slightly just enough.
I always felt like Hardline was meant to be an offshoot. Like, I didn't think it was ever going to be, hey, if this thing succeeds, there'll be a Hardline 2 and 3. And it always seemed like, hey, this is like our off year because we want to keep selling Battlefield games, so we'll put this out. It's developed by a completely different studio and whatever. Like, that always kind of felt to me like, one way or another, it was only ever going to be one game.
But so that'll be the end of I keep wanting to say E3. EA's press conference. Overall, disappointing pile of garbage.
I appreciate it because I watched it after the fact, so I was able to pick through and just watch the good stuff. So I was not nearly as disappointed because I did not have to sit.
I didn't watch it either. And once again, like, that's why they didn't have a real press conference. That's why they did their EA Play thing, because they didn't have a lot to show. Kind of makes sense now.
I was going to say, it was pretty similar to, like, 2 years ago when they did the same thing with all the dev diaries, and no one really liked that one either, and overall people didn't love this one. I liked it because I was like, oh, like, that's some cool, like, little tiny glimpse at Mass Effect. Oh, look, like, tiny glimpse at whatever Star Wars Visceral game is going to be coming. So I appreciated some of that stuff. I'm glad that I did not watch the whole thing.
Kevin said what I was going to say, which is they had a terrible conference in 2014 as well, and I feel like at this point they would be better off not doing annual conferences, and switching to like a biannual schedule, or maybe only once every 3 years, so that when they actually do a press conference, they actually have something to announce, because this was a ball fest for the most part.
Yeah, I think obviously like Mass Effect being delayed, or not coming out this year, like what like they first said in 2014. I think that's when it was that first dev diary came out. Because this should have been like a big blowout for Mass Effect if that was going to be this fall, but it's not. So we'll probably see more Mass Effect like at Gamescom and some of the other conferences coming up. So it's whatever. I enjoyed the little pieces I saw because I didn't have to sit through 45 minutes of sports and nonsense.
Anyways, moving on. So Bethesda had their little hour-long conference. Pretty good stuff coming out of this one. A big surprise for me, which was the first game they showed, I think, at least in this list I'm looking at, because I was asleep at the time, was that Quake is indeed coming back right now, soon-ish. It was...
That's cool.
Dan Reichert of Giant Bomb was like, I want to see Quake, and then everyone was like, nah, they're not going to do Quake so soon. They just did Doom. Give them some time to do other things. Nope, it's coming, soon. It looked interesting. It'll be weird to see if Quake comes back in this weird kind of resurgence of these style of games. I don't have any expectations, but I will be definitely open to some cool shit down the line if it does come. After that was the final and the second kind of big pack for Fallout 4. Nuka World, which, whatever, if you're into Fallout 4, cool.
You're forgetting about the elevators, all of the elevators, elevator DLC 2016, I think.
Famously on the show, we are not a giant fan of Fallout 4 because it's not a very good game.
Except for Sam. Sam thinks it's okay. Sam does not love it, but Sam does not hate it.
Yeah, but are you going to get super hyped for this DLC, though?
We're not talking about the other announcement they made about Fallout 4 yet, which is a thing I am excited about.
Which is what? I don't even know what that is.
The Vive support.
Oh, yeah. I heard it mentioned.
Which I will probably play that shit because I want to play that game in my Vive because that sounds like a good time. But obviously, I've already played the whole game, so adding new content to that when I do the Vive thing seems like a thing I'll probably want to do.
I wonder how that game's going to run in Vive since it doesn't run fantastic already.
Well, on PC, that isn't really as much of a problem. It has bugs still, but performance is fine. That probably won't be a big deal.
I was just going to say that considering that Fallout 4 has low textures and terrible frame rate dips, that's the last game I want in VR.
Exactly, yeah. Like, if it does come to PSVR, it's going to be hot garbage.
It won't. I can't imagine it would come to PSVR. Like, once again, so
I think it totally will.
A few things about the obviously the PC version. A few things about that. Textures are better, although just generally in VR, textures are shit, and they're going to be shit for the most part because they have to be. The stuff they were showing on stage, like the graphics of the stuff Sony was showing in the press conference for VR. I was looking at that and being like, ah ha ha ha, like, yeah, right, this is E3 trailer smoke and mirrors because VR games generally don't look like that. They kind of do, like the very best ones I'm playing on PC right now do look like kind of some of what they were showing, but the PlayStation 4 does not have that amount of power at all. Even if they were running on Neo, which I have to imagine a lot of that stuff was. I don't know about the way that stuff is going to look. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, we'll definitely see as they move down the line with kind of VR coming more and more front and center of a lot of stuff.
To me, the bigger than even just the actual announcement was the fact that Fallout 4 is technically the first AAA game that has been announced to be getting proper VR support, I think, right? Like,
well, Resident Evil 7.
Do we count Capcom as like proper AAA though?
Yes. As far as like names go, Capcom is a household name.
Yes. Well, okay. Household, no, absolutely not. Nobody
fucking shit. They totally are.
Nobody in my household would know who they are.
You say Street Fighter, everyone on Earth knows what that is.
Street Fighter and Capcom are not the same thing. I don't know.
That
anyway,
totally,
you're right.
No.
Okay, I guess I'll give them. I will grudgingly call them AAA and say, okay, so they are both the first AAA games to be announced.
Like, we might not like that. You asked Jordan, Capcom.
But also, Resident Evil games are all kind of garbage.
Whoa,
so
back it up.
I've had this conversation with Jordan before. I fucking do not understand why people like those games. But whatever, it's cool for people that want that. Great, it's in VR now. Horror games in VR are a fucking nightmare experience. That I think there'll be some cool YouTube videos to come out of that for sure, regardless of the quality of the game.
Yeah, that is the thing with everyone's like, look, because kind of horror is that big thing in VR right now with like Outlast 2. I'm sure that'll be in VR as well, which I actually think Sony showed in their sizzle reel of like VR stuff at least, which was kind of misleading. But that is like the thing is that it's first person. You have to look around like corners and stuff as a horror thing.
And more importantly, you can't fucking you can't get out of it. Like that's the real thing with horror in VR is there's no like looking away from your TV screen. There's no like and just the feeling that you're in it. Like that's the one thing that's really hard to portray about VR is if you're wearing a headset, you really really feel like you're in whatever that place is, like physically. And so when that place is full of fucking horrifying things that are jumping out at you, it's definitely a different level of fucked up.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like something I want at all because it sounds like a nightmare.
No, I don't. For the most part, the mechanics of horror games aren't why you play them. So if you don't like getting scared, there's not really a lot there for you.
Yeah, that's true. Like they are usually just like, hey, how hard can we make you shit your pants?
They're mostly walking simulators, but they don't get called walking simulators because there's spooky shit in them.
Anyways, moving on. That's not this show. After that, another what I think is fucking lame announcement is the Skyrim is obviously going to come to PS4 and Xbox One, and kind of a newer edition will also come to PC.
Does anyone here care?
For me, no, not in a million years.
Yeah.
Because while Skyrim was a fun game 5 years ago, and it was interesting and it looked really good at the time, which obviously they're updating the graphics, that's fine, whatever. The gameplay itself, the exploring is super fun, and it was really interesting to see what that world had, hiding in every, cave and stuff. But the gameplay is hot garbage. It's drunken bar brawling, like the worst combat in games. I would rather play Rocksteady Batman games, and you know how much I don't like the combat in those games. I would rather play that
but
for
that's
life.
because you got bad taste. I would
Oh,
say
I have bad taste.
Skyrim is not. I'm kidding, but no, Skyrim's not fun. But I would never call it the worst in gaming either.
I'm saying combat-wise, it's fucking awful.
I'm saying I think there's much worse out there. Like Resident Evil combat, for example. Tank controls, man.
Try switching weapons in Skyrim, and then when you have like a bow and then a sword and then a shield and then like 50 spells, try switching between them. That quick menu where you just press up on the D-pad and supposed to scroll through, takes me 3 minutes to get to the bottom of that on my Skyrim save file.
I would argue that that's a you problem, because my quick menu always had like 4 items on it. But if you're doing like magic, then yeah, that's probably kind of shitty. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying there's a lot worse out there. I don't love it either.
We talked about it last week a little bit. Like, I may try to go back to it. My younger brother is super excited because he's put thousands of hours into Skyrim.
$60, you're willing to go back to that game?
I mean, I spent $60 on the Legendary Edition on PS3 and played that for an hour, and that's it. I've spent.
So Kevin's just bad with money.
Yeah, I'm bad with money. Number one. I don't know. It's like, I might just try to give it a shot now that it will be like the better version of the game. Not that it's going to be the better version of a good game, if you don't feel that way, but it's going to be the better version compared to like what I played on PS3. My brother is super excited. He's over the moon about it. My buddy is super duper excited about it.
It's totally a huge deal. It's just not a huge deal to us.
The game's going to sell like fucking hotcakes,
for sure.
Because Skyrim. Well, that's the thing. It's like, Bethesda didn't need to make this game. They knew they didn't need to make this game. They get nothing out of it other than it was millions, it was tens of millions of dollars that they were leaving on the table if they didn't make this. It's not a necessary game at all, but it's a game that, because Skyrim sold like fucking insane amounts and everybody's really hungry for an Elder Scrolls game right now, it's just free money.
For me, I spoke last time I was on about how I'm not interested in a Skyrim remaster, but that said, when that trailer came up and the music started, I was just like, oh, I want this, and I sort of had to pinch myself to sort of be like, no, you don't want this, you haven't even finished on the PS3 yet, get a bit of context. But all they showcased in that trailer was, look, we have really pretty graphics, and that's great. I like that they're retexturing it and doing things with God rays and all that stuff. But for me, the biggest problem with Skyrim is frame rate dips, is that at points that game is utter trash to play, and I would be much more excited for this if they'd announced that they're locking it in at 30 frames per second so that it never drops in frame rate performance. And for me, it's all the graphical improvements, but it's none of the performance improvements to actually smooth out that gameplay.
Yeah, not, and that isn't even to say that the graphics look amazing either. Like, they look okay.
It's an old game.
Yeah, and I know Todd Howard he was talking about how some of the stuff that they are doing in this
special edition.
Special edition. I know he was talking about briefly about how some of the stuff they did for this edition is actually going to be hopefully better than like some of the stuff that was already happening on PC. So obviously might just be blowing some smoke, but usually Todd Howard's like pretty straightforward.
I mean, I can tell you right now, like the way that trailer looked. The thing that they've done to enhance the graphics, aside from, like, there are mods out there that increase texture resolution and redo a lot of the art and that kind of thing, but the things that really make those games look good are rendering, basically. Like things that will change the way the game is rendered, that will overlay it with post-processing and stuff. Though the higher-end post-processing stuff that people are adding to that game require hardware that the PS4 just doesn't have. It'll look better, but it's never going to... And obviously, it just never could. It's never going to come close to the way the PC version looks with mods, and that's okay. But I guess I kind of wonder why... I kind of agree with John in the sense that if you're going to increase the graphics and have it still look kind of shitty, you might as well just go for performance instead and maybe sacrifice the visual upgrade to make sure it runs super smooth. Because that was kind of a nightmare, especially on the PS3 version of Skyrim, which I played like 90 hours of and don't know why I did that. I guess the answer is trophies.
It's going to come out and it's going to sell... whatever they plan on doing with this money,
it'll sell a fuck ton, is what's going to happen.
They're going to be like, cool, we're going to fund our next 3 games off this game that probably didn't take a lot of work to drop into the new stuff. A very smart fiscal move.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like making games, I'm kind of disappointed that they're not going to move forward and do new stuff. With this time or whatever they're doing in these resources. It would have been cool to see them do a new IP.
It sounds like they are, because
Yeah.
they also, the other piece of news coming out of that was they're working on 2 more games before the next Elder Scrolls game. You can pretty much guarantee it won't be Fallout, and it obviously won't be Elder Scrolls, so I wonder what that team's doing. It seems like, could be something new,
Yeah.
which might be interesting to see.
They're gonna make it bring Rage back.
I would love that.
Well, no, this is like Bethesda Studios proper.
Yeah,
Like Todd
It was-
Howard's team.
It was a bad joke.
Yeah.
Moving on. What I hope to see come to the show, another one that I was excited to see come back, and actually looked really interesting in a way that when the trailer came up, because I was asleep for this, so I watched after the fact on lunch at work. And, obviously I knew what the title was, so I didn't have that surprise. But even then, it was like watching it play out in that, 2.5-minute trailer, I was like, the hell am I watching? Like, I couldn't even place, like, what it was. And so I wish I would have seen that live to be like, what is this? Because it would have been really interesting. But Prey has come back, not Prey 2, in the way that we saw, 45 years ago when it was coming out for the Sega Genesis. But coming back to the new stuff, Just Prey, which is a good move. Prey 2 has had the worst development cycle in a long time, and that it was coming out, wasn't coming out, brand new, not anymore, disappeared, never heard from again. So picking up and just doing a fresh restart is a good idea. But I thought it looked really interesting in a kind of weird survival horror sense that looked dope, and kind of this Groundhog Day, recycling the same day over and over and thinking something's real off. And then scary alien Spider-Man costume, which was that was the vibe I got at first. I was like, oh, cool, Venom's in this game. But I thought it looked super rad, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot different than that teaser where you're just like a bounty hunter dude, which was a great...
Which really sounded awesome.
Yeah. Obviously the fact that no one is complaining that it's not that is a good sign. Just because, like, the trailer is so interesting and there's a lot going on that it is, like you said, it's like Groundhog Day mixed with Bioshock, essentially, is, like, kind of what it looks like. But, yeah, it's a great little trailer. Hopefully this one actually comes out. Presumably sometime next.
That's hard to do, Kev. Put a game out? That's
I know, right? But, like, the rumor is, like, from 3 years ago that...
Arcane,
yeah. This rumor popped up, I think, like 2 or 3 years ago, so they have had a lot of time to figure it out. But hopefully, like, maybe next summer, next fall, hopefully this one just does come out. Because it looks real cool.
It does look really cool. Same. Cool, alright, fuck you.
I am tentatively excited for it, but, I'll wait till we see more, because that trailer was just a trailer.
You're supposed to be super excited no matter what, and you have to have a defining opinion whether something is the most amazing thing you've ever seen, or the worst thing you've ever seen.
Yeah. Prey 2 was cool back when they were showing that off a couple centuries back, but like it was just a pre-rendered trailer. Like it was just that, so it's hard to be like super excited until we know more about what that thing is.
Yeah, there was, as far as like what's going to go on, there wasn't a lot of information. It did feel super 2001 as well to me, like this weird, robots, and it's kind of scary, and you're like, I don't understand what's going on there. It looks like they're like testing on humans in some way, and this weird goop is fucking with shit. And it was scary, and there's an axe and a shotgun with the loading. But it looks cool. John, what do you think?
Well, if I have to choose between the best thing ever and the worst thing ever, I'm going to go worst thing ever, because I don't like horror. My tolerance of horror consists of watching the first third of the first Resident Evil movie and having nightmares for the next 2 nights. So, my tolerance for horror is less than zero, shall we say.
I don't know. You got a gun. Is it really horror if you have a gun?
I don't think it's going to be as horror as it looked at first. I think it'll be more of like kind of maybe a thriller, or some sort of...
As long as I can kill shit, I never feel scared. That's the thing with Dead Space that always, like... I was like, no, I'm a fucking badass. Like,
What?
Sure, these guys are weird monsters, but, like, I'm fucking tearing their shit off and throwing it at them.
I mean, in 2 they made you feel more powerful, but in 1 there was like, I'm an engineer, here's my laser, pew, pew, and on difficulty it was like, oh god.
3 was like full-blown action game with just...
It was fun, just wasn't...
Gun building was a focus of that thing.
So, I mean, I guess, giving you something to point and pull triggers at maybe is less frightening, but I still don't think it is as horror as it looked, at least, in the trailer. Like, I think they're just kind of trying to put a theme on, like, it's weird and you don't know what's happening. I don't think it'll be as, like, methodical and scary as it looked. Past that, don't know anything about this game. No, I don't think they gave any sort of window of, like, it's supposed to come out sometime. Next year will be...
And that's been a common theme with a lot of stuff at this E3.
Vague messaging.
Is hey, this game exists.
All right, bye.
Well, more
dates.
Sony than Microsoft for sure. But
Yeah.
we
Sony
won't talk about
was
Sony.
pretty bad about that.
Past that, they showed Doom DLC, which, whatever, it's not single player, so who cares?
Woohoo.
And then past that, they showed the first kind of solid chunk of Dishonored 2 gameplay and whatnot. Cool. Dishonored 2 is going to be a fun game. I don't need to see, trailers or anything. I get it.
As somebody that loves Fallout, or rather, sorry,
Nice.
Dishonored,
Nailed it.
whatever. I'm looking at the word Fallout right now because I have an E3 page
Me
open.
too.
Yeah, sorry. So, yeah, as somebody that loved Dishonored 1 and was kind of worried that Dishonored 2 might just be more of the same, my fears were somewhat dissuaded by that trailer, because I was like, okay, the setting looks different and really interesting, and it looks like they're adding a number of mechanics that are going to be fun to mess with. It still looks like there's a lot of old stuff coming back, and it doesn't look like the melee combat, like the proper sword fighting, it still looks really bad, which bummed me out a little bit. I was like, oh, this looks like the animations are almost like the exact same as the last game, so that'll be kind of a bummer. But on the other hand, that's not how you're supposed to play the game anyway. If you get into a sword fight, you're doing it wrong, so it's not the worst thing ever. So yeah, we'll see. I think that game will be great. The question is just how great, and that trailer sold me on. The trailer kind of sold me on, okay, this setting is good, and you're doing enough here that I'm not going to get bored.
Yeah, it's just that it's like one of those games where I didn't need to see it at E3. I was already like, it's going to be good. I had faith it would be good enough that I would buy it and play it and like it. That, I didn't need to be sold. So the trailer was like, cool. And I was like, all right, when's it coming out? Awesome. All right, bye. So that was it for Bethesda's conference.
New Colossus. It was a really cool Easter egg.
Yeah, a little teaser-ish thingy for a new Wolfenstein game.
Yeah, it's just super exciting to know that we are getting a new Wolfenstein game. There had been rumors that Machine Games were going to be working on the Quake reboot. So it's just nice to get confirmation that, they are working on a new Wolfenstein game, and I can't wait to see that. Going into this conference, that was the thing I was most excited to see from them, because I loved the first Wolfenstein, the reboot that they did at least. And after the conference, I was super bummed. I was like, there's no Wolfenstein game announced. And I was like on Twitter and stuff. I was like, new Wolfenstein game announced. I was like, what? What did I miss? But yeah, I think like putting an Easter egg like that in that little like boot up screen that then gets discovered like 3 hours later, I think that's a really cool way. And also it's like, I'm fed up of these, we don't have anything to show, so we're going to do like a developer diary, or we're going to do like some CGI trailer that's not going to tell you anything about the game. It's just like, hey, we're working on this, we'll show it when it's ready.
Yeah, the first one was a fun, interesting game, and this one will be a fun, interesting game, I'm sure.
A little extra time doesn't hurt, because Wolfenstein was 2014, I want to say. That sounds feels right. So if that does come out next fall, obviously like a little bit extra time is not going to be a terrible thing, especially because they spent some extra time on the DLC for Wolfenstein as well. Yeah. So a little extra time can't hurt. That'll hopefully make it a better game.
Yeah,
and we just had Doom, which, while not exactly the same, has the same feeling of like kind of that hefty shootery nonsense. And moving on to the meat of the first big show and impressive show is Microsoft's. They opened on what everyone had already assumed, because it leaked hours before or the day before, which was that they are in fact making an Xbox One Slim called the Xbox One S. It looked real neat, and it's kind of small, and the one they showed was just white. I don't know if there is a black, but this one is white. It is 40% smaller than the Xbox One, which is cool because the Xbox One is a very large console, which I don't really care enough to buy this because I'm probably going to get rid of my Xbox One anyways. Just waiting on confirmation for a couple other games. But this is cool for people that want one, and it is out very soon.
And the price point, by the way, is the other thing that was the thing that I was like, oh, wow, okay, they're playing for keeps.
Really?
Here.
It starts at $299 and goes up from there if you want, 500 gigabytes,
I didn't know they were doing
terabytes,
I didn't realize they were doing a tiered pricing thing. I thought it was just going to be one box.
Nope.
Okay, that's interesting, because I was going to say that the $299 price point is awesome.
That's for 500 gigs, which is fine. People have the problem of playing games and leaving them on their hard drive forever. Like, I have no space. Never once have I filled up either of my consoles.
I have, but I was going to say, can't you... Isn't the Xbox, like, you can take the hard drive?
No, you just plug in, like, a giant terabyte thing, easy. Like, no problem.
Okay. But you can't take out and remove, because I was going to say, like, it's cheaper to just buy your own terabyte drive and then put that in there if
you can on PS4, but not Xbox One. But Xbox One is just as easy.
You just plug it in and it works just fine.
Yeah, you can just do an external drive.
Which
yeah, that's nice too.
I'm sure you can still do with this. It has USB ports. Cool. There we go.
Oh yeah. Did you see that they got rid of the Kinect port? That's really funny.
You need a USB adapter now, which is funny.
Which no one wants. Like they connect fine, not ever something someone was like, fuck yeah, I can't wait to get the Kinect. Like I have a Kinect because it came in the box when I bought one.
I saw an amazing tweet that was Xbox One launched with Kinect required to be plugged in for it to even function, now not required at all.
Yeah.
In the space of like 3 years.
Now if you want to use it, you have to buy a peripheral that'll let you use it. Like that's crazy and really kind of funny and also kind of sad. Like just how far they've fallen with their ideas for what this thing was going to be, to then having Sony just kick their asses in sales, and then them just having to do all sorts of crazy stuff with their strategy to try to stay competitive. Like, and it still feels kind of up in the air because the other thing they announced along with the Scorpio thing. Well, I'm not going to go into that too far. I'm just saying I feel like they're setting themselves up to have a lot of like consumer like brand confusion with everything.
I don't think it'll be confusion. They're being, they obviously have to be really fucking clear on what these are. Like the Xbox One S is, kind of akin to the iPhone.
Yeah.
Oh, this is an S. Okay, it's the next kind of.
Yeah, but like, we pay attention to that stuff. But like you saw people that didn't know the Wii U was a different system.
Well, that's
right?
way
like,
more confusing.
Well, it depends on what they're going to call the Scorpio.
I hope it's not Scorpio. By the way. I hope it's just Xbox. Is what I'm hoping.
Well, I mean, they won't call it Scorpio. That's definitely a code name. But even if they have the Xbox thing in the title, like I could see people be like, wait, which one is which? Which is the better one? What is the S? What does this do? What should I buy? Help me. Like not gamers obviously, but just the more casual.
Could happen.
Yeah. I know, like, Phil Spencer, like, during his, multiple times during the press conference, he reiterated how, like, this is a new addition to, like, the Xbox family. I forget the exact phrase, but he reiterated that point, quite a few times. They don't want to, there's been some negative connotation with Sony about, like, the Neo and how games running on each are going to be, like, different, and there's been, like, a lot of hubbub about that, and it was interesting to see Phil Spencer say, like, we are not leaving you behind if you have, the OG Xbox. This is just a new addition to the Xbox family, and obviously Project Scorpio will be along the same line. So, obviously Phil Spencer is a very smart man. He is very good at, portraying that information and speaking very well about it. So I did appreciate that messaging from him during the conference.
The trouble is that messaging is a little muddled up, because what he's saying is that everything that you have on Xbox One will work on Scorpio. So your controllers will work, your games will work, but when this releases and when games, like, he didn't say that, there's like, they have a policy whereby developers can't make games exclusively for Scorpio. So that messaging is a little muddled, just in the sense that he means everything on Xbox One will transfer to Scorpio, not that everything on Scorpio is also going to work on Xbox One.
Yeah, which I think, is fine, because if they are going to make such a grand leap ahead of the current stuff, saying it's all going to work the same is going to, obviously hold back that new stuff. And so while, people are going to be pissed, that's just the way it is. And, some people might not get it because they can't, it won't be the same or whatever. They don't want to spend, $500-$600 or whatever this costs. But, it's going to get left behind regardless. The people that want to be on, like, the cutting edge are going to get the new shit. I think it's smart that, eventually, the Xbox One will be obsolete. And that's fine with me, because that is such a big jump forward. Whereas, like, the PS4.5 Neo, whatever, is a move ahead, but it's not, 6 times as powerful as their current PS4, like the Scorpio is allegedly supposed to be. And so saying, like, these are going to be all the same is like, playing games on your cool Windows phone or your laptop in, like, a high-end, like, 4K gaming PC rig or some shit. Like, just saying, like, it's the same, it's not going to work that way. So, I'm fine with it. But, to the games, they kind of came out afterwards. First game they showed was Gears of War 4, which is cool. It looks fun. I didn't need to see, a video for it. I was like, I'll probably get it, especially with the Play Anywhere stuff, which I'll talk about a little bit more. Having my roommate with his Xbox One and I have a PC, I can just buy games and we'll split the cost, and he can play the Xbox One version, I'll get the PC version. That'll be really fucking cool. And basically everything in this list, for the most part, that have the Play Anywhere stuff on them are all cross-platform play between Windows 10 PCs and Xbox One, which is fucking cool.
Yeah, it is really cool that they are doing that. They are definitely packaging, obviously, Xbox with Microsoft and really pushing that initiative. And obviously that plus like all the other enhancements that they are adding to Xbox One. It's great. Obviously, in comparison to Sony, they did not say anything about like hardware and software and like kind of like things that they are adding or changing or enhancing. So I definitely did appreciate that aspect, plus all the other things that they kind of announced at their conference. Because Sony was like very, very, very different conference. Obviously, both have pros and cons, but Microsoft was definitely invested in saying, you know, we've been listening to you. Here are all the things that we are adding. We are going to be listening. We're going to be continuing to support, you know, the Xbox family. So definitely a lot different than Sony. Not that one is better than the other, but it is greatly appreciated to see some of the enhancements and programs that they are starting. They announced at this E3.
Sorry, I was gonna say, just as somebody that doesn't have an Xbox One console, like none of that stuff mattered to me at all. It's nice, you know, it's cool that they did it because I definitely hear a lot of Xbox One owners complain pretty often about a lot of the features just in the OS itself that they're running on, so that's great. But yeah, like I don't really have anything to say on that just because, you know, not really a thing I care about.
For me, it's exciting because it means that all of the Xbox One games that I now buy that have this feature in them, I will be able to play those games forever now, hopefully, through this program, because I will have the Windows 10 PC versions available to me, and PC games, you don't have to worry about them being left behind when the hardware gets upgraded. So it's really exciting for me to know that I can buy Rico and I can buy Forza Horizon, and I can play those games in 10 years when the Xbox One is dead.
With kind of the way they're taking the hardware, I don't even, like, it's weird, like, thinking about 10 years from now, what does Xbox look like? Is it dead, or is the Scorpio or the next version of the Scorpio just the new box? Like, where that's going as a whole.
But the Xbox One will be dead in 10 years.
Sure, yeah, the original console will probably, for the most part, not have anything coming out on it. The whole way they're going with the hardware is really weird and uncharted territory.
Yeah, that's the most interesting thing about like next year. Obviously, depending on what Sony does at the end of this year with PS4K or Neo or what have you, because it's very different for the console market and something that not everyone is used to. Obviously, there's the argument that yes, people are used to doing it with their phones, but people are not used to doing it with their consoles, so they're both. Like you said, in very uncharted territory, and it's going to be hugely interesting to see what happens. What happens with Sony? Obviously, they'll hopefully talk about that tomorrow. Like, did they not talk about Neo because they're going to do it at an event later this year, or you know, are those rumors that Scorpio is 4 or 6 times more powerful, affecting their business plan? Because obviously, that could be very intimidating if you were Sony. You don't want to put out a box and then 10, 11, 12 months later, Microsoft comes out with something that kind of blows it away, because Sony has had the lead. They've been making smart decisions. They have been pretty proactive about their decisions, and now they may have to be reactive, and kind of it might swap over to Microsoft being more proactive about their decisions, because up until this E3, it has been all reactive. Like, you don't like the online only? Oh, no, you don't have to do that. Oh, you don't like, no use game? Oh, we'll take that away. So this was the first big E3 where they were, I think, the most proactive about their messaging, like all the stuff with Phil Spencer. So definitely going to be hugely interesting the next year of kind of consoles, both companies. So yeah, exciting stuff.
Yeah, yeah. There's so many questions though. Just that whole conference left me with about how a lot of this stuff is going to work. Like the questions like, hey, so this PC stuff you're doing, how across the board is that going to be? It looks like, for the moment, pretty much everything you're putting out is coming to PC. Is that going to stay the same? How about Halo? What's that going to be like? I have questions about that. Obviously, Scorpio is just a fucking giant series of questions. How are you going to market this thing? How is it going to be adopted? What's it going to cost? How exactly is it going to perform? What is your plan for backwards compatibility and all that kind of stuff going forward? Like, so many fucking questions that we're not going to get answers to probably for like another year still. I'm glad, just as a PC person, that I'm going to have a lot of new games I wasn't otherwise going to get to play. As somebody that loves racing games and has always looked at games like Forza Horizon from a distance, I'm super jazzed about getting to play it.
That was a great reveal, yeah. I don't even like racing games very much, and I was like, that was fucking dope. It looked awesome.
Yeah, like that's the thing. That's the one racing series that I love Burnout Paradise.
It's about as close as we're getting.
And open world racing games since then haven't done it for me at all. It seems like Horizon might be the thing for me.
Yeah, so, in Australia, mate.
Fingers crossed that I like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the same thing. I'm not a huge racing fan. I've dabbled in, spent probably too much time with the crew, a little bit too much time with Drive Club as well, probably.
Any time with those is too much
time. But I loved Forza Horizon 2. I played, and I don't think I ever finished it, but I still played like 30 hours of that when I wasn't expecting to love it that much. I probably still won't touch, the official Forza numbered games, but Horizon is just so much fun. And if you want to do like all the extra customization, all the like more, I guess, gearhead stuff, it's still there. But for someone casual like me, I can just play that game, jam to some great music, and just drive around. And I'm excited for that game when I don't really like. I won't touch Gran Turismo with a 10-foot pole, but I'm super excited for Horizon 3.
And it's just awesome that those games are getting out to more people. Like, just overall, especially because the Xbox is kind of a limiter on a lot of that stuff, with it being the less powerful of the two consoles. So having more powerful hardware to play it on is nice. I would give a word of warning to anybody listening, or even John, you were mentioning that you're glad you're going to be able to play them, that those games will be around on PC 10 years from now. So far, with the way that whole like UWP thing is going, like you still need a pretty powerful PC to run most of that stuff well. Like a more powerful PC than you should, because the optimization is Xbox focused. So even though a lower end PC should be able to run some of those games, you actually do need a pretty high end one. And that hardware will be cheaper 10 years from now, but it won't be like commonplace yet, I don't think. But we'll see if they keep updating that stuff. Like, I would like it if those Xbox games that are coming over were a little bit better on PC, but like the last things I put out, like Quantum Break was a goddamn nightmare. I talked about that back on Chatter with my experience of getting that game and then just not being able to run it at all. And even with my brand new shiny graphics card, I could hardly handle that thing. Apparently Killer Instinct and the Forza 5, or is it 6 now?
Forza 6 Apex.
Yes. The mini version of Forza 6 they put out, apparently those do perform a little better, which is great. They're still in a weird place with that stuff right now, so I'm cautiously optimistic about all that stuff they just announced, because so far it's kind of been hit and miss with everything they put out on that platform.
Yeah, and it's just like that thing going forward that, hopefully they kind of smooth that out as these big games start rolling onto that service. Like, right now, there's not a ton on there that, is really worthwhile to even look at.
I mean, Killer Instinct and Forza are good. Like, they're...
Yeah, they're fine games and stuff. I'm just saying, like, going forward, they have a lot of plans to bring, like, most of their games to it. As of right now, there's not, this giant library of Windows games to play that are, big AAA names. But yeah, that being said, going forward with all the cross-platform stuff, and if they do smooth it out and they make it work real nice and stuff, like, it's awesome. I don't understand, the whole, there's no Xbox exclusives anymore, blah, 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 this is stupid. It's fucking dumb. Like, people don't realize that, having Microsoft put these games on, multiple platforms and, in the PC stuff where they already is like almost their entire business. So it's not, it's not hard for them to put them there. And having more people play and buy these games gives them more money to keep doing more things. So Xbox being, pretty far behind the PS4 in terms of like just having consoles out there, it makes it hard to make big giant budget games when you're not selling a lot of stuff. So, basically doubling or building another user base on PC, which, has a fuckload of people that use PCs, that'll be, awesome to see more people play these games and get into these games with, like, their big titles that haven't been on PCs. Like, that's what I'm waiting for. Is Halo 6 going to be day and date on PC and be crossplay and all this stuff? That will have me get rid of my Xbox One. Not to say that I'm going to stop supporting all their games, but I'll be able to play them on PC.
Yeah, it gives you more options. Like, that's the biggest thing. Like, obviously more options within their confines of their platform, but it gives you more options to play. And like I said, they want to please the gamer, because they had not done that for give or take the first year of the console, and they've been pushing back against that. So more options are usually never a bad thing, and it's nice to see them trying to please the gamer. So,
and like you said, Kev, them getting in front of all the messaging. The console in its early days had a rocky start. PS4 took a very early lead, and they haven't done a lot in like the, software and hardware department on PS4. And I think still that fucking menu sucks. They haven't put folders in or anything. Why? It can't be that hard to give me folders.
Yeah.
and they just haven't done many updates to that have been meaningful or even noticeable. Like, they did that store update where they're like, look, the game things have cool new pictures, and you're like, alright, can I change my name yet? And they're like, nope, it's way harder than you think. And you're like, okay, or whatever. And then they're like, look, we updated it, it has new stuff. And you're like, what new stuff? I don't see anything new on here. It looks exactly the same as it did the first day I turned this thing on 3 years ago.
Yeah, but if you compare Xbox One like launch day now to like all the changes they've done, it's
so much
night and day, and it's just crazy that obviously it's just crazy because I don't know, the majority of us do prefer PlayStation, but I wouldn't say we're all like huge fanboys about it, but it's just crazy like the changes that Microsoft have made that, you know, a lot of people don't, whether they don't notice or don't care about compared to like PlayStation, where it is, like you said, the exact same thing. Is they have done, you know, minor changes here and there, but it looks pretty much like you could swap it out with launch day footage of the interface and all that stuff. And it's just crazy that, you know, PS4 just continues to be a monster and outsell Xbox. And Xbox is still, you know, tracking way better than 360 did at the same point in its life cycle, but PS4 is just like this weird monster that just keeps selling. Especially like without, like we've all said, without those big, you know, first party exclusives. Even this fall, it's going to be mostly them riding on the back of, you know, those third party partnerships. There's going to be,
Destiny
you know,
expansion and shit.
Yep, exactly like that. Call of Duty. I know some of like the leaked marketing for Titanfall was PlayStation, so that they might be pairing with them a little bit. Who knows? But it's just PlayStation 4 is just this weird anomaly. But it's still nice. Like, hopefully Microsoft does find more success in the next 12 months because it appears like they do have a good game plan.
Yeah, they're listening and they're doing it right, and they've done constant big overhauls to their, you know, operating system and the way they do business and stuff. And I think it's awesome that they have been. You know, they have their preview program, which they're very open about, like, hey, join, help us do things. We want to do things that you want us to do. So tell us what they are, and we will get to work on them immediately. Like, they're bringing new changes constantly to, you know, the store and the tiles, and they're like, oh, you want to move stuff here? Like, you know, a month later, look, you can rearrange them in any order you want. And they just updated the Smart Glass app. I don't know what they plan on doing with it, but it's just Xbox now, because they are doing the, you know, when they got to that really long Minecraft stuff, saying like, look, I'm playing on my iPad. Look, I'm playing on my Surface. We're all playing together. And weird, like, daytime kids show stuff, which is odd. But, you know, they are doing this cohesive, like, it's the Xbox family now. It's not just like Xbox One and look, Smart Glass app. And so, you know, continually changing, saying like we are doing things, moving forward and talking about their hardware, not being afraid to talk about, you know, Xbox Live is getting, now they're having clubs and they're doing the arena stuff. And, you know, they're bringing a lot of interesting things which will make it fun. Like they're adding looking for group to just Xbox in general, which, you know, is a thing that a lot of MMOs and PCs and forums and stuff have, but having like looking for group, just, you know, you pop up an app and you say like, I want to do this, and then someone's like, I do too, let's play. Like, having that stuff is super cool to have and going forward.
Yeah, and it seems like, you know, it's a good mix of copying what the competition's doing right and then adding some of their own stuff, like some good ideas that they are having as well. And that's nice. Like, that's great to see.
Yeah. And I think Phil Spencer has been, you know, since he has taken over as head of the Xbox, you know, the public opinion has definitely risen in a very positive manner. Because beforehand it wasn't great when they came out and talked about, you know, all their old stuff. I don't remember what the guy's name was that was head before. Yeah, not the most well-liked person. And
hey, he went to what, Zynga, and then they filed for bankruptcy or whatever. He's done a fine job.
But, you know, having him come out and just be like a really nice, down-to-earth dude who, you know, who will reply to you on Twitter and say like, yo, what's up? Like, and he'll just fucking talk shop, and he's just, you know, a nice guy. He goes out and he, you know, gives it like it is, and he's making a lot of good changes to what they're doing. So, you know, it's a bright future for Xbox, and it's a lot of interesting stuff going on. Whereas I don't see, you know, with Sony and talking about their hardware, I know we're not supposed to talk about Sony today, but I don't know why they didn't want to talk about their new stuff. Like, yeah, maybe, Kevin, you're right, and they wanted to wait and see what, you know, the Scorpio was going to be outside of just rumors and stuff, and them actually showing something and be like, okay, we got to kind of readjust before we kind of come out with, look, it's the new box.
But will they? I mean, the reason we knew about the Neo is because they've already put out like a bunch of dev kits to developers and stuff. So to suddenly take that step back and be like, oh, okay, actually, no, the hardware is going to be like this.
Like, that would be the crazy part, yeah.
Yeah,
It's so
that's
hard
the
to
only like
predict.
rational thing I can think of is that they wanted to put stuff out there, see what Microsoft was going to do, adjust, some things on the back end, then come out with like, look, this is the thing we're doing, and it's going to be out, somewhat soon.
Real quick, just curious, did they have HoloLens at all
Nope.
during that press
No.
conference?
Not even Minecraft.
They talked about VR.
Yeah, it's interesting
briefly.
that they're not talking about HoloLens, but
It's going to be Oculus.
But they did mention VR, which is super. Yeah, I agree. It's probably going to be Oculus, but they haven't said anything officially yet. Because that's their other thing with Scorpio is they're getting into the VR game,
Of course they are.
or kind of getting into the VR game in the sense that their console is going to be VR capable and support VR. They have not actually announced any partnerships yet. One would probably assume Oculus because they already are partnered with Oculus in the sense that every Oculus Rift comes with an Xbox One controller and, that kind of thing. So we'll see. That seems interesting. They think they said Fallout 4 VR is also coming to the Xbox One, and that, by the way, sounds like a fucking nightmare, but we'll see. It will be running on the Scorpio, so who knows? Maybe that thing's so powerful that it beats Fallout 4's problems. Time will tell with that, but it's kind of nice to see that VR, every side now is adopting that, for better or for worse. We'll see. I'm very interested to see what VR on Xbox looks like because they don't have their own hardware, and because it's not going to work on the base console, and because Oculus is an expensive piece of tech right now. Like, it seems like an interesting place. I betcha PSVR is going to start a lot stronger than whatever they're doing on Xbox will. But yeah, like, it's just from the overall industry perspective, top down, seeing Microsoft getting into that game is super fascinating.
I'd love to see what they do going forward. Like, because HoloLens looked cool when it came out, but it wasn't a good, gaming apparatus. It's really cool for the tech world and doing a lot of interesting stuff, like scientifically and even like with the medical field and stuff. Having that kind of tech is really cool. But as far as like, I'm a gamer, it wasn't going to be like that big. It's not VR. It's different.
Me personally, like, the reason VR is appealing to me is because I play games. Like, immersion is a big part of why I'm into games, and not that it's different for everyone. Some people like are into it just for the plot, or because they like gameplay mechanics, or they like hanging out with friends and doing multiplayer. Like, to me, immersion is a big part of it. I use gaming as a way to escape the real world and deal with like anxiety and that kind of thing. So for me, like, VR is fucking awesome, and AR was never going to be that thing for me. So it's really nice to see that, oh yeah, this thing's definitely sticking around in video games because we've got both hardware manufacturers now getting into that, and PC's already there. So super, super interesting going forward just to see what succeeds.
I think Oculus is a obvious choice and probably a good choice. Like, making oh look, it's Microsoft VR. Like, it feels unnecessary if this Scorpio thing is going to be basically a PC in a box. Is what it sounds like, and Oculus, is a big name in VR, despite whatever weird press they have going on right now. Like, Oculus, you say Oculus, and for the most part, if people are, inclined to technology, they have heard that name. And, I'm still unproven on whether or not the PSVR can keep up with, like, the Vive and stuff. When they showed the Resident Evil stuff, it didn't look great, like, visually. And I know VR games, as a whole, do not look awesome, as of right now.
Yeah. And they're looking better all the time.
It's still super new, obviously, so, it's kind of going to have that learning curve, at least for right now, for, like, at least the next year.
And I will say, though, like, the one caveat there is we're talking all the shit on the way VR games look. When you're playing when you're actually wearing the headset, it is a whole different thing. Yes, on a flat screen, they don't look great, but when you're actually in them, you don't fucking notice the textures. It's more the overall scale of, oh shit, I'm in this room. Which is why, to me, Oculus is an interesting choice, because it looks like the way PSVR is going with their Move controllers and their camera stuff, it's going to be a little closer to the Vive in the sense of you can look all around you in the room.
It's more of a 3D space and less of just...
Yeah, it seems like the demos they put out, like the what was it? Like the thing where you're doing a robbery or whatever and, like, taking cover and shooting people. The impression I got was that's a 360-degree experience, like, you can look all directions and stuff, versus the Oculus is limited to 180 degrees, as in, like,
It's an FOV thing.
Yeah, well, no, not an FOV thing. Like, straight up, like, the play field with Oculus, you can't look all the way behind you. You cannot, like, flat turn around. Games are not designed to work with that, because of the way the sensors are. So, that's going to be the weird thing, is if PSVR VR experiences are games you're playing with a full room around you, and Xbox experiences are games you're playing and you're only looking in like one direction, that's going to split development in a weird way. Then again, having a Scorpio that's out there and is a console that is way more powerful than anything else out there is also going to split development in a weird way. So who the fuck knows what's going to happen?
Okay, done with hardware stuff. Yeah, cool. Can't wait to see what they do. Interesting. They did show kind of the first real meaty look at Recore, which was cool. We got to see the full kind of cast of robots that are going to accompany Sand Lady. It still looks interesting in a way that I am open to see what it is all about, but I don't really have an opinion of, like, I can't wait. I don't want to play this at all. It looks weird. They showed gameplay. There's platforming and lots of stuff. And there's like 5 or 6 robots that are all like, this is the puncher one, this is the other one, this is the big guy. Like, it looks cool, and I can't wait to see more about it, but as of right now, I still don't know what it is.
Coming out a lot sooner than we thought, because we talked about that last week, which is good, because it's, September, I want to say? Maybe? But yeah, coming out a lot sooner, which is a good thing. From what I've seen on Twitter, people are really, really enjoying the demo that they have there, which is a good sign.
It's out on the show floor. Lots of people, I saw on Twitter, like, lots of people here to see Recore, and there's like fucking giant line of people. Because it is like that game that I don't know what it is about, so I am interested to know more.
Yep, and so far people who have played it have had pretty positive response to it, which is great, because we talked about it last week. Like, we knew pretty much nothing about it, and we didn't think it would come out this year. But it's good that it is. It's a different type of game for kind of Microsoft, which is one thing Phil Spencer always talks about, like having a wide kind of library of titles that Microsoft, or exclusives that Microsoft offers. So it's nice to see a different kind of I guess, puzzle-y platformer, kind of Zelda-esque game kind of in their portfolio of games, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, it just looks real rad. Can't wait to see more.
For me, what I liked about that trailer was, we don't know what the plot is, we don't know if there's a narrative, but it showed us, here's the gameplay, there's platforming, there's puzzle solving, there's a little bit of combat, and it was enough. I'm super excited for that game. It's probably the game I'm most excited for this year. It showed me enough to be like, I'm going to enjoy playing this game, but I can still discover the entirety of that game for myself.
I really can't wait to see what it will be when it comes out. It does look, platforming, big mechanical puzzle stuff, a cool crew of robots to hang out with, a lady with a helmet on, and like a rifle or some weird crap that she was using to shoot stuff. Well, it is that game where I don't know anything about it, so when it comes out, it will be like, oh my god, this looks super cool. It's a game that has not leaked the plot. It hasn't been shown in a big way. It's a new IP. I don't know shit about it. It's going to be awesome, and it is real soon, like just a couple short months away. So,
yep, which is great.
Moving on, they showed a very bad demo of Final Fantasy 15, and I feel bad because it was bad, and that game looks awesome otherwise, but that was a bad demo for that game. But the sense of scale in that game is really cool. That thing was fucking huge. Like, it's a very big game.
So wait, what was the trailer? Like,
so they did a lot of live demos, which was cool because they were doing like, look, this guy's playing on Xbox, this guy's playing a big 4K PC, this guy's playing this, and they had a lot of live demos of people actually playing games. And they had that for this, too. And he was like, look, we're fighting Titan or some shit. And it was a huge, monstrous-sized dude. And they're like, all right, there's like a kind of a big war zone going on in the crew. They're all hanging out. And he's like, all right, you gotta fight the arm. And he's smashing down and kind of doing the big swipes. And the guy who was playing, I don't know if he was really bad at the game or the game is just difficult to control because it is kind of weird in this weird place between gameplay styles of Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy and stuff. But it was just like the same. It took him like 15 minutes to do anything that was like worth watching. He like just kept getting smacked around by this giant hand, and you're like, and I was like, no. Anyone who's on the fence is now like, this game looks awful. And he finally does. Like, they use the cool Blizzard magic, which the magic in the game does look really interesting. And they freeze the arm, and Noctis does like a cool thing and blows the arm up, and they're like, look, it's Final Fantasy 15, it's done. And I was like, that demo was so bad.
You know what's cool, though? You know what's coming out of Japan and looks great? Scalebound.
You're jumping ahead here, but cool.
Well, there's no order,
I'm doing
right?
it in a slight order of the way they were shown, yes.
Okay.
Next, they showed General Wong for Killer Instinct. That game is way bigger than anyone ever thought it would be, which is cool, but I don't really care about fighting games, so whatever. After that, we finally got to see Inside again, which is the next game from the Limbo guys. It's one of those indie games that's supposed to come for Xbox that we still don't know jack shit about, like Below and Cuphead and all that jazz. So like, look, they're coming, and you're like, these look rad, and they're like, when? And they're like, we don't know, and you're like, motherfuck. But yeah, this is like, Limbo was a breakout kind of cult hit, and I think they just said it's fucking free on Xbox. Like, you don't need games for gold, just go on there, and it's a free game you can play. So this is another, pretty anticipated game from them. So seeing it again was cool. Did they say a release date? I don't remember.
I think they said at the end of this month, actually, which is super.
What? That's way sooner than I thought.
Yeah, which is why I was like, I thought I saw like July or August, but then JR was like, oh, nope, it's like the 29th or something.
Wow, cool.
Something like that. So super soon, which is crazy because like it was absent, I think, for a little while. So like for it to be that
up
soon
and vanished just like Below and Cuphead did.
Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that one multiplat or is that exclusive to Xbox One?
Yeah, it's on Steam.
Do you know if it's free on PC or is it just free on Xbox One?
Limbo is free, not Inside. Yeah, they said on Xbox Limbo free. Cool. Not this game. Yeah, it looks interesting. I didn't know that it was... Yep, yeah, you're right. A new trailer and a release date of June 29th on Xbox One and July 7th on Steam. I don't know why you have to wait a week, but you do.
I mean, it's cool that it's on Steam. Like, that's also nice. So it's not just going to be part of the Play Anywhere thing, and it's only on the Microsoft Store. So that's a nice thing.
It looks interesting enough that, it's going to be, I'm sure, $15-20, and I will check it out. After that, probably one of my most anticipated games, they showed, they talked a lot about the game preview, which is basically early access for Xbox, which has been successful, and they've had Ark on there, and they have Sam, what's the game where you're in the wilderness, and it's all hard to survive. What is that game called?
There's a lot of those. The Long Dark?
Long Dark. That's also on early access, and Elite Dangerous, and a lot of cool, upcoming games. And they said one of the games that will be coming to that next month is We Happy Few, which is a game I cannot wait to see more of. And I believe, doesn't it go to Steam Early Access fairly soon as well?
Yeah, so it goes up on July 26th.
Yeah, for me, it's a game about basically society. They take a pill called Joy, which makes everybody happy and everything is sunshine and rainbows. So We Happy Few is from Compulsion. They made Contrast, which was okay. It's like a retro kind of future weird halfway sci-fi 1960s, very Rapture Bioshock is what I was getting from a lot of the way it felt. And your main character guy decides to stop taking Joy, which is like a criminal offense in this world.
Yeah. Well, it's not even that it seems like from the gameplay they downloaded that I think IGN first had something a few months ago. It's not necessarily that your character decides to stop taking it. You can opt to take it if you want. It seems like it's more of there are perks and downsides to using the drugs, kind of with this roguelike gameplay. I get the sense that it's more going to be like popping pills and like Binding of Isaac or something, where there's going to be some maybe desirable, maybe undesirable effects from doing drugs in this game.
Yeah, just like in life. Drugs, sometimes good, sometimes bad. Anyway, so it opens and he's like, fuck this, Joy sucks, chucks it to the side. Creepy girlfriend or something comes in, and they all have, I don't know if it's face paint or actual masks, it looks like face paint, where they all have the kind of white face paint on their faces, and it's very creepy looking. She comes in, says we have to go to like a birthday party for some kid, and character walks out. He's kind of coming off the Joy and like withdrawals. And he goes out and they're like, look, it's piñata, it's a cool Spanish tradition, let's beat it with a broom. And he's like, okay, and he goes to smack it and like blood splatters up. And he's like, I don't know what the fuck. And he looks down, it's just a dead rat. So I was like, I don't know if this is what reality actually looks like when you're not taking Joy, or if he's just having some weird brain aneurysm.
I think that is what reality looks like. Like, if you've seen the gameplay stuff, it's like, they've shown what it looks like. The world changes, like the world becomes like sunshine, rainbows, lollipops when you're on Joy. And then it's actually like this fucking dark, disgusting place if you're not. So it seems like really cool. Like every environment is like has two versions that you can kind of see.
It is a game I cannot wait to play.
Fucking
and it does seem fairly kind of stealth based, or at least you can stealth, or you could beat the shit out of people if you wanted to. But yeah, it is one that popped up as a trailer, and I was instantly interested in what this game was. And as we've seen more, and it's going to come to preview, which is cool, and early access soon. Yeah, it's a game to definitely look out for if you're interested in this kind of theme at all. And if it is a roguelike, and they do have a lot of different ways, it can be a game you could play for billions of hours, like Binding of Isaac. Moving on. They showed, officially after Some rumors / leaks, like always, that Gwent is indeed coming as a standalone game, with a apparently beefy single-player campaign for Gwent, which is cool because I know a lot of people. Kevin, do you like Gwent a lot? I know Jordan is fucking head over heels for that game.
Probably not as head over heels as Jordan is, because who could be? But yeah, I love my time with Gwent, in which I think he actively
sought out,
seeks out every single person in that game who he can play Gwent against. I did not, but I really enjoyed my time with it, especially in the new DLC. Kind of off topic, but there's a Gwent tournament with the new card deck, so I really enjoyed that in the Blood and Wine DLC. So it's interesting. I wish, because as far as we know right now, it's just PC, PS4, Xbox One.
I'm surprised it wasn't announced for mobile immediately.
Yeah, exactly. iPad, iPhone. I would love to play it on there, like Hearthstone, whichever pronunciation you prefer. I would love if I could play on my stupid, big, dumb iPhone 6 Plus. Because it's great within the game, obviously. I can, kill some monsters. Hey, someone wants to play me in Gwent. That's awesome. I don't know that I would want to actively seek out just playing that on my console compared to where I could just, pick up a couple games on my phone and then go on with my day. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of their plan to roll it out. So obviously in CD Projekt Red we trust, so I guess we'll see.
Yeah, they definitely haven't done anything wrong in the past year or so. And another game that showed up, announced, Tekken 7. Cool. Whatever.
Loved it when I was 10 because there was a fucking panda that would beat the shit out of
Dude,
people.
Come on, no. Anthropomorphic Jaguar Man is the best character.
Oh, I loved him. I loved Yoshimitsu because he had that really cheap teleporting move that I was always using against my brother.
The Pogo Sword.
Oh yeah, that too. He had the cheapest moves in that game.
It was a cool demo. It looked pretty. Again, none of us big fighting fans, so probably not gonna talk about it. Sorry.
And it's there's not a shortage of fighting games.
It's a lot.
It's Tekken sits in this weird kind of space where it's
been out for forever.
It's not, and it's not the biggest one, especially the success of Mortal Kombat, and obviously Injustice 2 is on the horizon now, coming off obviously the hype of Mortal Kombat X. So I don't know. I guess it can't be any worse than Street Fighter. So there's that.
Shade.
Sorry, Jordan.
Past that, probably one of the games I was happiest to see come out at the conference, and just in general as far as E3 goes, is Dead Rising 4 is indeed coming. I can't fucking wait. Frank West is back. It is in a snowy Christmas time mall area again. He looks like a cheeky fucker in this trailer, and it was great. He's taking selfies with zombies. He's burning them on a cool Christmas tree and hanging out, shooting texts at his friends. Dead Rising 3 is probably the best launch title on the new generation of consoles, regardless of Xbox One or PS4. Just in general, Dead Rising 3 is fucking so much fun. So, seeing Dead Rising 4, not surprising, but I was super happy to see that it is indeed coming, and I cannot wait to play it. Am I the only fan for that game here?
No, I definitely agree with you that was Dead Rising 3 was one of my favorite games when the consoles launched, because there wasn't anything like that great. And kind of what it did, it was just a fun game, because obviously as great as games like The Last of Us are, where it's, sad, spooky zombies, it is great to have something that is the complete opposite of that, where, and they showed off a little bit, where you can have a candy cane crossbow, or a flaming, death cart. It was, one of the funnest things was when you finally got the ability to build, the steamroller motorcycle that, shot fire everywhere, and you would just plow through zombies over and over again. I'm super excited, especially because they built that game on, Xbox One dev kits way back when, so now that they have, they understand Xbox One and PS4 far better compared to that being a launch title, is something to be hugely, hugely excited for, because it's just going to be bigger, better. So I'm excited. It sucks that it leaked beforehand, because that would have been a really cool surprise. It was still great. It was still a great little trailer and some gameplay, but yeah, I'm super excited for that.
I don't know. I guess my problem with Dead Rising games is that it's actually kind of the same problem I have with the Saints Row games. It's on paper I love them because they're goofy and silly and funny, but at a certain point I feel like they topped out and there's just nowhere left for them to go. My thing with Dead Rising has always been on paper, I love this because it's got ridiculous weapons and just killing lots of shit, and that's just a fun stress reliever. But at some point, it was just these kind of all feel the same, and even though there's different crazy shit in each one, and the world changes slightly, it's still like the same core mechanics in just a way that I eventually got tired of. So I don't know, like what they showed looks like more of Dead Rising 3, which was more of Dead Rising 2.
That's totally not true.
I would say 3 like took the best ideas for 1 and 2.
3 was, I agree, because the world was much bigger and they handled. I guess I didn't play much of 3. I heard they handled the psycho fights a little bit
Some
better.
dark shit in those ones.
Yeah, like the buffet
once
lady.
Again, the actual plot stuff, interesting. The gameplay behind it, fucking not.
I
great.
totally disagree. They're just pure fun. Like, hey, video games are supposed to be fun. They're like, look, The Last of Us. It'll make you cry. And it's going to be hard. And people are going to get just brutally murdered. And then it's like, video games are stupid.
I agree, but like the problem is that they've more or less, like, the fun part of that game has been the same.
But it's still
in
fun.
every
That's
game.
the thing.
Like,
I've never grown tired of those games.
I guess my problem is I don't feel that way. Like I said, like with Saints Row is my same problem. Goofy fun, but like the same goofy fun every time to the point where it's not fun anymore.
And it just may not be for you, you know.
I was hoping Dead Rising 4 would be, hey, maybe we're gonna make this play differently somehow, and maybe.
I don't think it can be any better. It is already just pure fun in like the dumbest way possible.
I don't know.
Hey, you want to put on a fucking Stegosaurus head and shoot flame out of your face? You're like, yeah, that sounds fun. Look, you can do it. You want to put on a power suit, rip a stop sign out of the ground?
But it's fun for a minute, and then you're like, oh well, then it's just the same animation over and over again. Like, I don't know. I really wish I liked those games, but I just fucking.
Then it may just not be for you. You know, people buy Call of Duty for 47 years straight, and they're still like, yeah, it's fun, and I'm just like, nope. So it's the same thing, just different. Different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like with the Dead Rising case, there's a lot of people that feel the way I do. Like, you look at those games sell okay. But there seems to be, if you talk to a lot of people, there is a lot of fatigue with those games, I think. It's kind of growing, especially with some of the weirder problems with those games that don't seem to get fixed. Like, those fucking boss fights just don't play great.
You haven't played a lot of 3.
I was going to say, like, really those were definitely the highlights of my time with 3. Like, they were super interesting, and there were some super fucked up ones, too, which is like...
Well, the plot and the fucked up stuff, like, that's kind of been in every game, and I like that. But the actual just mechanics of the fights, it's like, oh, I'm hitting this human being thousands of times with a fucking SMG, and he just won't die. Well, he's like throwing pies or some weird shit at me, and I'm just getting my ass kicked.
Soon. I know they said holiday release window, hopefully. Hopefully, I don't know. I don't want it to be December, but obviously it probably will be, which sucks. But
they picked up, 3 in a way that was different from 1 and 2, is that it was like this big, I'm going from kind of city to city, and it was interesting. And they did the psycho fights, obviously, and it was like basically the 7 sins is what they did with this one. I can't remember if that was the same in 1 and 2, of like, these are the 7 sins, which are the 7 bosses. But they did that in 3 where it was like, Gluttony is like a dude in a buffet, and he's like so fat, and he's in like a motorized wheelchair, and he was like refilling his health and throwing weird shit at you, and you had to like do different stuff to fight them. And they were all super goofy and like mostly disturbing, and it was just a fun game. And it was big and pretty, and it ran surprisingly well for the amount of stuff it was doing just on screen at one time. And it was like, it came out around the time on the consoles when there wasn't a lot of cool games out at the time, It was like Knack and Dead Rising 3. Those were the games. Yeah, I cannot wait to see what happens with 4 and what, maybe they take your complaints to heart and then they do some different stuff. Who knows? I don't really care either way. It's going to be a fun game, and I will play it. I can't wait to put on a Mega Man head and beat a dude with an umbrella filled with noodles or something.
Oh, like you did in the other games?
Yeah. So, after that, here you go, Sam. Scalebound.
I mean, okay. Let's not overblow my hype for this. I thought it looked neat. And I liked Revengeance. That was a good Platinum game. And co-op seems cool. But, we'll see, because the last 2 or 3 games they put out have also been shit.
I think Platinum is just stretched so thin. I don't really know how big their studio is, but they were doing Turtles in Time or whatever the fuck it was. And they're also doing Nier right now, Nier Automata or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
They're doing this and whatever the hell else they're doing. I don't know if they just are stretched so thin that they can't focus on one game at a time without them getting lost somewhere. But this is a game where I'm open to it being good, but I am not convinced that it will be good.
At least it was a cool, demo and a boss fight. So
I wish they would have shown multiple POVs. It's just the one guy.
Well, they all look the same
look,
too,
it's
and he's
4
like,
player.
This isn't a fair fight. There's one of you and 4 of us. And I thought that was super goofy, but
it was awesome to see that the boss was huge. The dragons are fun and cool. It looks like another fun game.
Yeah.
And like, oh look, it's give me a beat. And he like throws on his headphones, and they can do some weird transformation stuff that we saw a little bit. And it looks like a fun game. I just don't know, like, what are the meat and potatoes of this game that, like, keeps you, coming back? Because, like, just fighting bosses and, like, shooting stuff, that's fun, but the gameplay doesn't look too dynamic. What is the story? What is there, like, a quest system? Am I going around, like, Monster Hunter style doing stuff? Am I crafting? I just don't know enough to be like, yeah, I can't wait. It's like another game, just like ReCore, where I want to see more, but I don't know what's going to happen.
For me, I thought the gameplay demo was extremely rough. I didn't like at all what I saw. I thought that I looked at this and I was like, wow, this looks like it's got clunky gameplay, which is surprising for me because Platinum are normally known for really fluid gameplay. In terms of the lead protagonist, I really can't stand him. I was talking to one of my friends afterwards, and he said something which I totally agree with, which is like, if I saw this guy on the bus, he's the type of guy I would punch and throw off the bus. And also, I think the last 100 years of music, in terms of popular music, has been the worst thing we've ever done to music. But that's just me being an old man smoking my pipe.
No, I agree with John on that. Fuck that shit. Let's not even talk about Ubisoft, because that's a whole other thing.
I get that, yeah, he seems like a punk douchebag, but it's fun to play those guys because they're fun to play. Like, I don't...
No, they're not.
Bullshit. I don't even know if the main character even matters. Because if there's going to be... If the 4-player co-op, 4 of, Jimmy, headphones, is not going to make any sense or be fun in a weird way. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if you do get a design, make your own character at the beginning. Like, they've just shown this one guy because they designed him and he's easy to put on the screen. And I feel like that is the case. I don't think this is some weird personal story about a man and his dragon and his electro music. I just don't think that's going to happen. And you know what? I could be totally fucking wrong. But I think it will be like, make a guy, cool. Go tame a dragon or whatever and rock out to, Base Nectar or some shit. But we'll see what they do with the character stuff. Obviously, I don't know because they haven't said jack shit about what the game's actually about. It's
Fun fact, I've been in a Base Nectar concert photo before. Or one of his crowd selfies. Fun Samyang facts. I don't even like Base Nectar.
It's uninteresting.
Fucking friends
as far
that
as
shit.
That genre of music goes. That's not cool. So yeah, I don't think Scalebound is about Jimmy Headphones. As I have now coined him. If his name was Jimmy Headphones, I'd be so on board. His name is probably not Jimmy Headphones if that is the case, but that'd be rad. Up next was a game I was surprised that I actually liked seeing this year. The last time I saw it, I was like, this looks like fucking stupid nonsense. But Sea of Thieves had a cool little showing this year, and I thought it looked interesting.
It was a cool kind of little multiplayer experience. That being said, there was very little shown about it. Obviously,
yeah, it's another game where it's like, cool! And you're like, what's it about? And they're like, we're not going to tell you. And you're like, okay.
You can drink liquor and, raise your sails and have a boat fight.
Dude, that was the best part. Like, let's get hammered and go sailing. I was like, fuck yeah, that looks awesome.
Yeah, which is cool. It was like, for that aspect, it was great, but it is also like, I don't know, it doesn't, at least from that vertical slice, it still seems like a little ways out because they did not show a ton. I think if maybe it was further along, they would have showed off more than just like, that slice, because yes, it was cool, but at the same time, it was like there was not a lot that they showed off. It was like, okay, here's kind of an island that they don't even really explore. Here's a ship. Go blow some stuff up. So it looks
pretty though, and it looks.
Yeah,
it's one of those games that the aesthetic just looks fun. Like you just look at that for like 10 seconds, you're like, this looks like a fun game. It's got like the bright colors, the cartoony stuff. It looks like it plays pretty smoothly, and it's got a lot of interesting mechanics. Like they show off, a bunch of combat. They show off repairing ships. They show off like diving and stuff. Like, I bet when that thing comes out, it'll be a good time. Unless it's like really buggy. Like, it seems like the kind of game I could totally see with like all the water physics and stuff, like just being fucking buggy, especially if it's all multiplayer.
Or if it's just a shallow game.
Yeah.
Like, sailing around and shooting stuff is fun for 3 hours.
Maybe, but I mean, it depends on what they sell it for, right? Like is this a $60 game or is this a $20-$30 game? Like I don't quite get the sense of where this is going to fall in. Is it like a few maps multiplayer only sort of deal, or is it more of
Well, I thought they were penning it more as an MMO type thing.
Yeah.
Are they?
I think.
I didn't know. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's being penned as an MMO. And also, this is like, I mean, so Rare put out Rare Replay last year, which was kind of like, hey, here's 30 games that we made that were actually good. Please
Well,
remember that we can make good games.
Here's 5 games that were really good, and here's 25 other games that are interesting.
Post Rare Replay, this is the first game they're putting out, and I think that this has to be a statement piece for Rare. This has to be a return to form, and I think selling this game for anything less than $60 sends out a very clear message that this isn't the sort of swan song that I think they're trying to create. What I really liked in terms of the footage they showed was I liked how, in terms of the MMO aspect of it, that you're going to have, I think, if you're playing this game properly, very defined roles on the ship with all of your friends. Like the fact that, you have to raise the anchor, you have to repair your ship. Like, it's not a case of, for anyone who's played like Black Flag, you can do everything on that ship as just a single person. And in Sea of Thieves, it looks like you're going to have a very defined role where it's like, okay, well, in this battle, you're the person repairing the ship, or in this battle, you're the person responsible for tucking the sails, you're the person responsible for steering the ship. That being said, I hate multiplayer games, and I really wish it was single player.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be a multiplayer game. As a single player game, I don't think I'm interested at all, but as a multiplayer game, if it does come that, like, hang out with your buddies, and then you get to build, like, a fort or something, and you get, like, a cool pirate Havana thing way out on the ocean, and there's, like, I don't know, treasure hunting and diving to cool shipwrecks and stuff. Like, there's a lot of ways it could be cool, and there's a lot of ways if they don't decide to iterate on those, and they just go, look, you take your ship out with your friends and get hammered and then die. It's like, okay, I don't know how long this game lasts for me then. But it is, Xbox One, PC, blah, 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 all that nonsense we've been talking about. It'll be cool to see where it is going forward.
Yep.
Past that, 2 sequels that are of no surprise. State of Decay 2 announced, and Halo Wars 2. State of Decay 2...
Anyone like that one?
What?
Like the original? Did anyone like
State of
that
Decay?
a lot? Yeah.
Nah, I played the demo and I was like, ugh.
It seemed like
Rough.
so many great ideas, and then just a game that didn't really execute.
Because that's the thing, is that the first game single player only, this game 4-player co-op. I believe this is a ramp up to a zombie MMO.
That's the theory, because that's what they talked about at some point.
That was the original plan, was like State of Decay, a zombie MMO thing. So, test the waters with one. Vast majority of people pretty fond of the first one.
Which was weird. I don't know, like, reviews were at least I know IGN's review was super positive. I don't know anybody, I think, that played it and liked it. I just saw a lot of positive reviews, which was, one of those little weird disparities. Because, there were some things that were cool about that game technically, but just playing it, I don't know, like...
It was rough.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. And that was the thing, it just had a lot of really rough edges.
Well, they re-released it on the Xbox One and it played a lot better. But yeah, it was kind of rough the first time around. But this one, 4-player co-op, which is always good for these type of games, playing alone is not as fun as playing with friends. That's just kind of the way it goes. And so yeah, I feel like this is a ramp up towards a bigger, more multiplayer focused game. But this one, just a brief trailer, not a lot of information out there. They just roll up in a Thunderbird, and they get some gas, and they go, welcome, bye, and then State of Decay 2 pops up on the screen. You're like, cool. So, I mean, it's going to be that same thing of, like, collect stuff, help out settlers, whatever. We'll see what happens there. Halo Wars 2 also, the Halo RTS game, very good on the Xbox 360.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's an opinion.
Are you kidding me? I like Halo Wars a lot. Not a big RTS fan historically, past like the old days, the old generation of all those games. Not a huge fan of StarCraft 2 and all that jazz.
I don't think Halo Wars was bad. You're one of the only people I've ever heard say anything good about it. Halo fans don't seem to like it. RTS fans don't seem to like it. And obviously, I didn't have an Xbox 360, so I only played a little bit with some friends on their consoles. But it seemed okay. But I'm surprised to hear you say you like it that much, because I have heard very few good things, and I don't think it was reviewed particularly well or anything like that either. It got 7s and around there, I think.
We'll see what happens this one. They have a beta out right now. on Xbox. It's the Play Anywhere stuff, so it will be coming to PC as well.
Yeah.
Which I will play it there because mouse is just better for these games.
Well, exactly. That's the thing. Like, to me, that's the big deal about this game that makes it so I am kind of interested. Because there aren't a lot of RTS games coming out anymore. And I'm into RTS quite a bit. And, hey, look, Halo Wars, but with the controls you'd want for an RTS, seems potentially good.
It worked really well on the gamepad. That was not a complaint I had with that game at all. It was surprisingly adequate.
But the reason it worked with the gamepad is because it was so much more limited in scope than a lot of proper like PC RTS games were, like smaller unit counts, smaller map sizes, that kind of thing.
Which I was fine with because it was, coming off. I'm historically a Halo fan ever since that first game. I like Halo. This is RTS with Halo stuff, and it was fun. And the way they showed the trailer was interesting. So an RTS game you play as the quote unquote like commander dude. And they showed the trailer with the UNSC guy walking up, and they're showing this new faction called the something.
That's a weird name.
I can't remember the name right. I can't remember the name right now. Like the Banished or whatever. And they showed the kind of enemy commander, and they're walking through this weird like slow-mo time-stop battlefield. And I would love to see the story be like, somebody telling the story of how these battles went down, and you are acting out what they are.
Well, that's the one cool thing about it is most of the time you don't nobody gives a fuck about RTS campaigns. You don't even touch them for the most part. StarCraft maybe would be the one game where they kind of put some production into that, so it's worth playing. But most RTS games that come out, like you just play skirmishes as a multiplayer because why the hell would you want to play single player? Halo RTS is the one place where I'm like, hey, this is like a universe that's moderately like interesting, and they are known for doing a good job at telling their stories, so they're actually kind of worth playing. I think I will definitely check out the campaign when that game comes out, which is more than I can say for most other RTS games.
Yeah. I will look forward to playing the demo, but my Xbox One is not even plugged in right now, so I'll have to do that. And also 8.4 on IGN for Halo Wars, I'm so second.
Okay, well, people can be... I don't have a lot of an opinion on this game. I just know that a lot of people don't like that game.
See, as far as I know, of like people I talked to and that I'm involved with, that was, as far as, an RTS on consoles and having Halo in the name, it was a fun game.
I don't have a lot of opinion on that, but I am thinking just the sheer thing of, hey, Halo Wars 2 is going to have mouse and keyboard gets me interested because I'm itching for an RTS to play, like a proper RTS, because I just reviewed Total War, but that's like a combination of like Civilization and RTS. It's a little bit different. I want to play a straight game where you're just sending dudes at each other on a map, and there's a bunch of vehicles and units and shit.
Yeah, and that's what's great about Halo fans and having this as a Halo game is that most things are instantly recognizable. Like you're like, oh, that's a Phantom. Oh, this is my, I'm flying in. Here's my Warthog unit. Here's my this and that.
Yeah.
And yeah, like RTS games, not a lot around that are, well known. Yeah, like Total Warhammer came out. Most people that are like playing consoles, no fucking clue what that is.
Yeah, but that's fine because of course console players don't know because honestly, putting an RTS on a controller, putting an RTS, because that's the thing about Halo Wars, that it's a smaller scale, right? Like, putting an RTS that plays the way the ones on PC play, like, you just can't do it with a controller. There's just too much shit.
I'm putting giant armies together. Let's do it. I really look forward to this game. I think it'll be good to see in another Halo game. It's never a bad thing for the most part, except for those stupid Spartan Assault games. Those are not fun games.
Yeah, their mobile stuff is questionable.
Lackluster. Yeah, this is the RTS where I say I see a story trailer and I'm actually interested to see what it says, and I'm not just like I want to put on a movie and play an RTS on the side.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's an RTS with a story trailer. Those don't exist really. Outside of like, I guess StarCraft, and then back when Command and Conquer was still a thing, they kind of did that too.
Not a fun game.
Those were good games.
So that was the end of the Microsoft conference. They obviously showed Scorpio. They didn't really show. They talked about Scorpio afterwards, which we've already talked about. Yeah, basically as far as Scorpio is concerned, sounds insane as far as power goes for consoles. Literally know nothing about it. They showed as they were talking, it was like this weird, hazy background, like slow motion computer parts coming together, and that was basically all we saw. That was interesting. So this has gone on a really long time. This is the end of part 1 of the E3 coverage for Ground Punch and the PunchCast. I was your host, Evan, and with me was Kevin, Sam, and John. Look forward to part 2, which will be Ubisoft and Sony as the other half of the show, with an all-new cast of cool, inventive people. I'm assuming they'll probably go up one after another or pretty soon-ish, so look forward to those. And also, if you don't want to listen to us talk about it, head over to groundpunch.com and look at John's massive work rounding up all of the interesting news you can see at E3 at groundpunch.com. It's cool. He did weekly knockouts for them as well, and there's videos, I think, that are supposed to go up for those. It's interesting, and check it out for sure.
Yeah, check out I was just throw this out there. Check out the Weekly Knockout podcast on iTunes. It's all the stuff we just talked about as far as announcements and stuff goes, but condensed into nice bite-sized chunks so you can get all your E3 news there if you aren't caught up yet on the show, or if you just want to hear another take on it.
Or if you don't want to hear 4 hours of it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Cool. We'll see you next time.